Another thing that I wanted to ask you is about the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
So obviously a huge 3-game series for them as they continue to creep closer and closer to the Leafs for first place in the North Division. What are your thoughts on this team? Like, do you actually think that they can win the Canadian division? And do you think they can beat the Leafs in a playoff series?
I think it's between, I would be absolutely shocked, like flabbergasted, if the team to come out of the Canadian division was not the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Winnipeg Jets, just because they're the best built. Like, let's face it, the Jets are one of those teams, and like we've complimented the Jets a lot on this show, and like us just saying now that like, you know, we would expect the Leafs are kind of tell ourselves that the Leafs should beat them, but that doesn't mean that we also don't think that Winnipeg is a very good team themselves. They're a nice team, and it's kind of weird in the way that they're very likable. Like, people always have the thing about like personalities on a team, and again, we don't know these guys on a personal level, but it seems like they're just a very likable team. They're a good group. I mean, most people like Paul Maurice. We've talked about Hellebuck, so they have the goaltending. They play smart. Like, they're a smart, functional team. They're a balanced team. Can they win the Canadian division? Yes. To be honest, I mean, if you asked me that about any other team, I think I would say no. Like, I think it's that straightforward. I would say, can Toronto win? Yes. Can the Jets win? Yes. Every other team, I'd say no. Because even if the way it's going to be set up, where we expect the Leafs and Jets to finish 1-2, I would say no one's going to beat both of them. Like, I'd be like, people could say, well, maybe if McDavid and Draisaitl play out of their mind, but even then, like, that would be something historic. So, like, to answer the question of, can the Jets win the division? Absolutely. And over a 7-game series with the Leafs, I'd give the edge to the Leafs, but we just finished talking about how Connor Hellebuck's ridiculous and they have a lot of game breakers. So as much as a team can beat the Leafs, I would say the Jets have a chance to beat them. I mean, again, I wouldn't bet on it, but can they beat them? Absolutely.
Yeah, I like this Jets team. And you know what? The thing that impressed me the most watching these 3 games against Winnipeg was the play of that Ehlers, Kyle Connor, and Dubois line.
Oh my God.
Which I thought was easily their best line, because we all know that Mark Scheifele leads the team in scoring and Blake Wheeler's having another solid season. But that first line, you know, with Scheifele, Wheeler, and Stastny, honestly did not really generate a hell of a lot of offense against the Leafs. Yeah. Like, they were
that Stastny tip was crazy though, when he was like, it was going like
in the last game, those guys, you know, kind of finally woke up, and Scheifele scored that, you know, garbage time power play goal at the end of the game. But for the most part, the line that I was really, you know, concerned about when they were out there, and you can just see based on the eye test, like, man, these guys are buzzing around. They're creating chances. It was Ehlers, Connor, and Dubois.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you look at that Jets top 6, it's potent. They could score with any team in the league. And obviously we've talked a lot about Connor Hellebuck. I do think the Jets have some holes on defense. And I think for the most part, the Leafs, you know, sort of expose them and prove that they can pretty much do whatever they want, you know, in a couple of those games against Winnipeg. Obviously that Hellebuck had to be superhuman in. But, you know, going back to, can Winnipeg win the division? One thing I've, you know, been thinking about recently, Lepore, is, does it even matter who wins this division? Like, if you're the Leafs or the Jets, do you even care?
Oh, I mean the regular season.
Yeah, the regular season. Yeah. Like, do you even care at this point if you finish first or second? There's no home ice advantage.
Yeah, right? I thought about that.
There's no fans in the stands. Like, sure, of course the Leafs want to win the division. I still think they're going to win the Canadian division. And yes, I think they're going to be disappointed if they don't win the Canadian division. But I think when you kind of step back and you look at the big picture, if they finish second and the Jets win the division by 2 or 3 points, is it really going to matter? Because at the end of the day, if they're the 2 best teams, they're still going to meet in the conference finals, and there's not going to be home ice advantage. And sure, you're going to be in your own rink for 4 out of the 7 games, but we all know with no fans right now, it's irrelevant. So that's kind of the way I look at it as well, is like, honestly, I don't really think it matters in the grand scheme of things. Maybe the fans are, getting a little bit more excited and fired up about it than the actual players are.
I've thought about that. I've thought about even like across the league, because it's getting to a point where, I mean, kind of like the old setup with the divisions. Like people used to joke that like teams by Christmas were done, because if you were last place and then flip it around, if you were at the top, if you were the Oilers, you were comfortable.
Statistically, you didn't have enough time to make up ground, and vice versa.
So like I've wondered that, like across the league, are you going to have teams, or have you already had teams that are kind of, I don't want to say checked out, but yeah, like players can get kind of bored and whatever. Like we're locked in, there's no urgency. And also in the way of, and things we don't really see as fans, in the way of like coaching strategies and even how the management plays and dresses guys, do they just not care? Because now I'm gonna get ahead of myself here, but even as far as like, okay, we know you have the 4 teams who win the division. I would be absolutely shocked if it's on a bubble at that point. Like, I don't think they're going to have like, and who knows where we're at, like politically by playoff time, but to have teams like flying back and forth. And even if you are, say, like the Leafs or the Jets, are you okay with that? Like going across the border and coming back. And then even with rules in certain states, how they are allowing fans. Well, if I'm the Toronto Maple Leafs or I'm the Winnipeg Jets or the Edmonton Oilers, I've been playing under these restrictions all season. I'm not flying into whatever state and playing in a stadium with 10,000 people. And then there's also the matter of that being an unfair advantage for one team to have fans, the other team to not. So I think the NHL might step in there.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like what I expect anyway would be, okay, you have, and even who knows, maybe the divisions will end up being bubbles. But I mean, I don't think that'll happen because it seems like pretty comfortable now. But anyways, so let's say, okay, you have a regular playoff for the first 2 rounds. I think you'd have a 4-team bubble. Is what I would predict, because even on the team side, to like avoid the travel, stay safe. We've had COVID positives across the board. Like even just those things of like, there was the scare with Fleury. It came back a false positive. But can you imagine, like you're in the Stanley Cup final or you're in the semifinal and your starting goalie has COVID?
Yeah,
like you just want to
colossal disaster.
Yeah, like you just want to scrap that. So to your point of like, do the players care? Do the teams care where they finish? I don't think they do. And to be honest, like these conversations happen well in advance. The management and ownership groups probably already know. That decision's probably already been made by the NHL of like, or at least like they're 90% there of what it's going to be once the semifinals happen. So like to your point, like I don't really think teams really care where they end up as long as they're in. Like let's face it.
Yeah, it almost kind of reminds me of the NBA, and I kind of it always brings me back to LeBron James, how it never really matters where his team finishes in the regular season.
It's always amazing when people are chirping him during the regular season. Like, have you not learned that he doesn't care?
Yeah, like
right
he
now?
Doesn't give a shit
oh my god,
about where his team finishes in the conference, whether it's second, third, fourth, first.
Yeah.
They just get into this mode come playoff time. Look at any of the teams he's played on, whether it's Cleveland, Miami, the Lakers, obviously. And I think I'm kind of getting similar vibes right now in the NHL. And you made a really good point about kind of growing tired of playing the same teams.
Definitely, man.
And over and
Definitely.
Over. Like this, and I know I don't want to give excuses and, for how the Leafs obviously were pretty bad this past week. Okay. So I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for them, but you can kind of see just some fatigue setting in, especially towards the end of the week when they faced Ottawa. Second night of a back-to-back, their third string goalies in net. They fly to Ottawa the day of the game. They're probably like, you know what? Let's just get this shit over with.
Exactly. And they know they're looking forward to the week off. They're just like
how
it's not an excuse. It's bullshit. Get the 2 points, but you can see it happening 100%. Yeah.